Hi everyone, welcome back. We're here next to each other again. Fantasy that, but not on an Airbnb this time. And we're back and again a little bit delayed, but ready to review the Bundesliga and A-League action that took place not this weekend, just gone. Obviously, we're in the middle of an international break, as those of you who regularly follow the football calendar will know. But from just before that though, so yeah, we're back for the one before that, but we explained it in the last time we did a review last week. So
yeah, eventually looking closer every week to getting back on schedule, which is good. So
yeah,
but yeah, we've had a look at the weekend, the previous weekend's Bundesliga and A-League action, and there's plenty to unpack. So
yeah,
let's get into it.
Not waste any time as we're trying to get a little bit quicker through these videos and just dive straight into it. With the first game, as I get my notes up, I think you've got them there, Ben, so why don't you just kick us off here?
Yeah, so Stuttgart versus Augsburg. So 3-2 win to Stuttgart, and they get back to their winning ways after a defeat to Leipzig. Meanwhile, Augsburg lose another tight game, and what that means for them, I guess, moving forward, we don't quite know, but certainly one that they let slip. But Augsburg did show signs of much needed improvement early. They did take the lead. Some good forward strength from Carter leading up to the opener. So yeah, positive for them. And look, Stuttgart would be really happy just to get back on the winners list, right? So
I mean, they will. I mean, this was one of the games I did the notes for and stuff, so I saw this in a little more depth than you did, of course. But yeah, I think overall a really good win for Stuttgart after that defeat to Leipzig the week before. For Augsburg's sake, they began the game. It's another game where it's just I feel sorry for Sandro Wagner. It's got nothing to do with the fact that he's played for my club, but I do feel a little bit sorry for him because they're not awful. They're not a terrible team. They're just being let down by the fact that their concentration across 90 minutes is clearly an issue right now. And as I was saying to you, obviously before we began this recording today, Ben, I don't like Finn Darman. I think he's an incredibly average keeper at best.
yeah,
That's another thing holding them back.
yeah,
I thought he should have saved the eventual winner from Dennis Undav. Kind of just went straight down the goal. I know it did get a slight touch on the way, but professional goalkeeper at the top level of your country's league, you should still be making more of an effort instead of getting kind of flat-footed and like out of the way for that. So yeah, I don't know.
Positioning's key. For goalkeepers, especially in such a high level of competition. But look, we've talked about goalkeeper errors on this podcast many times, and the weekend, as we'll go through the games, is no different. But especially with Augsburg, if they've got hopes of sort of finishing sort of mid to higher table, top half, goalkeeping mistakes like that are just unforgivable, really.
Yeah, like it wasn't. It wasn't. I mean, to be fair, Alexander Nubel for Stuttgart had a bad error and had another shocking moment of his own that he's had in recent weeks. But I just think, on the balance of it, a very good comeback from Stuttgart in that game. Augsburg they're not quite there. They just need to try and be able to concentrate for 90 minutes. They started well. They looked the better team in the early exchanges, took the lead twice. But it was that, as soon as Stuttgart kind of brought it back to 2-2 in that second attempt at the comeback, they just kind of took control, and you felt that they were always going to go on and win the game, which they obviously did.
Yeah.
I will point out the penalty as well, at 1-0 for Augsburg, the clumsiness to give away the penalty in that manner, which, just on a side note, which was not the only VAR incident this weekend.
Plenty of them, yeah.
VAR had its own TV series in the Bundesliga this series. It was this weekend. There was so many.
Definitely kept busy in the booth there. But I mean, I guess with you mentioned Sandro Wagner before. I mean, he just needs to get 90 minutes of concentration into his side and pretty quick. I mean, what are we in? Sort of almost the end of November now, and the winter break's coming up pretty soon. So. It's going to be a bit of jostling for position before Christmas, and then sort of it's almost like a new season starts over again from January.
Like, I know they haven't had an easy run of games too much of late. They've had that heavy defeat against Leipzig. They lost narrowly to Dortmund. They've just lost to Stuttgart. They're playing teams in and around the top four at the moment. I know it's not been an easy run of games for them, but they're playing better than the results overall deserve, I feel, with the exception of that Leipzig game, of course, because that was just horrendous for them. But yeah, I just think Stuttgart get back to winning ways deservedly, even though it was a tight game. Augsburg, if they can put the first half performance into the second half of games going forward, they'll start to finally get results go their way. But they are now at a point where something needs to change. Otherwise, Sandro Wagner might start to be under some serious pressure, especially if they go into that winter break fully entrenched in the bottom three. So yeah, that's just my take on the first game of the round.
Yeah,
essentially.
absolutely. So we'll move on to the next game, and it was Werder Bremen coming up against Wolfsburg. It was actually Bremen that got the points in this one, 2-1. So more misery for Wolfsburg. The away side looking comfortable for a massive 3 points until second half substitutions really changed the course of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how the story panned out. Wolfsburg, I thought, for the first time in a few weeks, maybe since we started doing this podcast, put in a performance for the first 80 or so minutes that looked like they were going to walk away with a deserved 3 points. They took the lead early on with a well-worked goal, good cutback, good finish on a semi-tight angle. And they kind of controlled proceedings throughout at least the whole of the first half. Then Bremen made the subs around the hour mark. Then they needed to. Kiki Top and Justin Jinma came off. They were poor again, both of them. I think that was Kiki Top's first start of the season, but yeah, he hasn't done anything to help his chances going forward with a performance like that. I thought Wolfsburg looked way in control. Maximilian Arnold, good performance from him. Eriksson with a much more improved performance, I think. But then, as Bremen started to get hold of the ball, and then that cross in, and then once again their leader, their man, well, not really a leader, he's not their captain, but their main man for goals this season, especially late goals, because it's been a few times already this season he's popped up with some late goals from them. Jens Stay, once again, pops up, great header on the back from, maybe not quite the back post, but I'd say the middle of the box, but still a good header back across Grabara. And it's 1-1, and then all of a sudden, Wolfsburg kind of go back into that shell which they've been unfortunately going into all too often at times in recent weeks. Grabara forced to pull off a great save to keep it at 1-1 at the beginning of stoppage time. But then, here's the thing I want to talk about, because I've just shown you the highlights of this game.
Yeah.
For those of you who are watching this who've seen this, did Victor Boniface pull off what may be the most ridiculous assist you may have ever seen in football? Not in terms of brilliance, but in terms of just what the fuckery.
I think I mentioned just before you could probably try that 100 times and maybe not hit it exactly the same even once, but that's
he's just attempted a bicycle. For those who haven't seen it, he's just attempted a bicycle kick. The ball's gone flying up in the air. Like in a cricket type terms, when a ball gets completely spliced up in the air and you're just waiting for it to drop, and you got wicket keeper and a couple of other fielders beneath it, just like simple catch. Basically, looked like that. It's just gone flying up in the air in the box. And to give him Bangula credit, he's just ran onto this. First time on the volley, on the angle, just smashed it across the goal into the top corner of the other side of the net to win the game 2-1 right at the very end of the game. And I just think, from the position that Wolfsburg were in of relative comfort, albeit only 1-0, those substitutions that were made by Bremen completely changed the landscape of that game.
Yeah.
And got them the win in the end, which for them is a massive win. It would have been an even bigger win for Wolfsburg. And Simonis and co are just now, once again, looking nervously beneath them at that relegation zone when teams behind them, as we'll get onto later in this, are starting to pick up points and, more crucially, form. So it's a good win for Bremen. Just like the Augsburg game we've mentioned before, though, it's another game where Wolfsburg need to sort something out. Though I'll say the difference is Wolfsburg are not, they're not 100% always deserving to win games. I think you go 1-0 up and you look comfortable, either find a way to get the second goal, because in the second half, Wolfsburg kind of tapered off and almost allowed Bremen back in, albeit the subs were brilliant and they changed the complexion of the game as a whole.
Yeah.
But needs improvement there.
Yeah. I think just lastly on that one before we move on, look, we've talked about that cluster of teams that sort of need to start getting results, and I guess the most important thing for a team like Wolfsburg is you've got to take your chances wherever they come, and if you don't, like in this game when you make substitutions at half time or whatever it might be, and you can punish the opposition, that hurts, right? So just goes to show, a half of poor football or a poor 20 minutes can cost you big time in this division. So more pain for them. But we'll move on to the next game.
It's the Frankfurt-Mainz game, which was a very narrow 1-0 win in the end for Frankfurt. after a late goal, a piece of magic from Ritsu Doan. Like, absolute magician football footwork from him on the edge of the box, and a great finish as well. But really, that was the only thing of note in what was not a particularly amazing game of football. I thought Frankfurt were much the better side. Mainz, they look in trouble. I know every week I say, oh, they're going to get good. I think they've got the players, they're going to impress. I'm starting to now look at it and be like, they're level now on points with Heidenheim, 5 points apiece each, tied at the foot of the table. Mainz only ahead of them on goal difference at the moment. The winter break is only a month or so away. Maybe it's not so much anymore the case of just like, can we only blame European football, because they're fair enough point into the season almost now where you can start to think like, well, European football or not, if they're going to try and pull themselves clear of this relegation battle, they've got to start winning games and winning games fast, and they're just not doing it.
Yeah.
And even though this was a narrow 1-0 defeat, the performance from Mainz was poor. Barely had any clear-cut chances themselves. Basically allowed Frankfurt the ball. That midfield of Christensen and Dahoud for Frankfurt completely controlled proceedings for Frankfurt. And Nathaniel Brown's another one I want to quickly touch on, the wing-back. He's being touted to make a bigger move potentially in the summer if the reports we're reading, which are true, if they're true, which, in football, everyone who's watching this, probably a complete load of crap. But just from what we're seeing, right? Yeah, another good performance from him. As I said, great goal from Ritsu Doan. Frankfurt 100% deserved the win. I mean, they themselves didn't particularly look amazing in front of goal. Why he spurned an opportunity at the end. Still a good save from Robin Zentner, but I think, Mainz have to start looking at things and now looking at these games that they have ahead of them and trying to get at least 1, maybe 2 wins between now and the winter break, just to kind of give themselves some boost in confidence.
Bit of momentum. Look, I think certainly that's the case, and we've sort of covered that a little bit previously, but I mean, it almost feels like we could do a separate sort of pod around these teams, this cluster of teams that just for whatever reason and differing reasons can't get results. Mine's are surprising for me because, I mean, even though St. Pauli have only been in the top flight for the last couple of seasons, I know Mainz have been quite strong and have been able to, pull away from the relegation zone, and it just sort of feels like, they're not able to do that at the moment, and the weeks keep ticking away, and the longer it goes on, the harder it's going to be for them, and they've got games coming up that they'll want to start getting more than just singular points in, or points full stop. So, yeah.
It basically sums it up. Frankfurt, they're maybe starting to, they've won a couple of games since we started this podcast now. They've started to look slightly better. They're dominant, as I said, against Mainz. Maybe they're not going to push for the top 2, but they're definitely getting themselves back into the top 4 conversation now, which is a good thing for them.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll leave that there and we'll move on to the next game, which did involve a team in the top 4 and did involve a team at the foot of the table. But it wasn't as close as the game we've just talked about. Leverkusen absolutely gave Heidenheim a full-on thumping, 6-0, 5-0 at half-time, in fact. We've been talking in recent weeks, obviously, about Heidenheim games when we touched on them in the games we've reviewed of theirs and saying, they just, they obviously don't have the quality, but they're putting in decent performances. They're just not getting over the line because they don't have the quality, and that's what ultimately is probably going to take them down. Yeah, that performance stuff this week just went completely out the window because they were truly obliterated in every sense of the word.
Yeah.
Leverkusen refinding their winning form after a really dire performance against my lot last week, or a week before, I should say.
Yeah.
And just absolutely going ruthless against Heidenheim and just putting them to the sword, so to speak. 5-0 at half-time, only 1 in the second half, but that was already done anyway at half-time. Ernest Poku with an absolutely fantastic performance. He is one of the best players they have in
He's been impressive, yeah.
From an attacking point of view. Great finish from Schick to get them off the mark. Jonas Hoffmann, popping up with a goal and an assist of his own. Poku with 2 assists and a goal, and then Ibrahim Matza with scored his first 2 goals, I should say, from midfield for Leverkusen. Second goal especially, fantastic finish, like run and finish. But yeah, I just think Leverkusen completely outclassed Heidenheim on the day, and I just don't know what else to say about Heidenheim's performance. No one stood out.
No.
Barely anyone could get on the ball. It was just a complete dominant performance from start to finish, almost from Leverkusen.
No, and
especially in that first half.
Yeah.
Heidenheim had nowhere to turn, really, did
No, well, I mean, the trap door beneath them is actually starting to crack open, which is not good. It's not when we talk about this in November, it's never a great sign. And we've seen another sort of 6-0 thumping. I think that was Augsburg a few weeks ago against Leipzig. Yeah. So, but this one was probably far more clinical, just because Heidenheim have just been really disappointing so far this season. It's probably
disappointing, but in other games prior to this, I mean, we can agree they've put in decent performances, but we kind of know, as do a lot of fans probably know at the Bundesliga, that this season they just probably don't have the quality to stay up. They survived the playoff last season, as we always say.
Which was unexpected in itself.
Just looks like this season it's just going to be an automatic relegation for them, unfortunately, unless things drastically change for them. And if they can bring anyone in, and who they bring in January, that's a big if. They might not even have enough money to do so. We don't know. Right?
Yeah. And
Heidenheim fans, get in the comments and let us know if your team are looking at anyone in January or anything, or if you can, right?
Yeah.
But just from the outset right now, they're definitely not going to be clear of the bottom three by the time we hit the winter break. It's just, can they improve in the second half of the season is what it's come down to now, really. Can they find a way to get... Because they've had good performances, but can they find a way to have more good performances that they can win and get points from more frequently in the second half of the season? Just enough to keep them up.
Yeah.
Even a playoff, because they survived through the playoffs last season. They could just do the same again this season. That's their aim. Got to aim for 16th at a bare minimum, but 15th and above is what the proper aim should be. But right now, it's all about the second half of the season for them. And as for Leverkusen goes, they keep the pressure on. They win again, get back to winning ways, keep the pressure on that, the top four, keep themselves in that question, as you'd expect them to be throughout the season, of course, with the quality they have in the squad. But
yeah, just the last thing I'll mention on Heidenheim is goal difference is obviously a massive thing when we get to a relegation scrap. Whether we see the same thing, sort of April, May next year, but 6-0 defeats like that really aren't good for that. And it's like you were saying, do we get to January and they've brought in some players sort of push them along, but I mean it's really the here and now, isn't it? I mean they've got to get results and they've got to get them quick, but certainly just another great win there.
For Leverkusen.
Exactly, yeah, they were clinical and they've just continued on as they have been all season, really. So
well, apart from the start and then the week before, but but speaking of the here and now, or should I say the last week and now, because we are recording this ahead of time, of course. Remind me right now what date, not what date it is now, because that's completely irrelevant, but what date was it last weekend, Ben?
I think it was the 11th. Thereabouts.
Those of you who can't see,
8th of 9th.
I'm literally hovering my mouse over the date as he's struggling to figure out what date it is. Yeah,
it's Groundhog Day here, folks.
Yeah, last week it was the 9th of November, and last week Bayern did something that they haven't done at all this season up until that point, and that's not break another record. No, it's 9th of November, and Bayern have not won a game of football for the first time. Can you believe it?
Callum me shocked.
It's only taken until the 9th of fucking November.
It.
Now I can stop. Now you people can stop getting annoyed at me constantly waxing lyrical about how glorious my team are this season and the records we're breaking, because we've finally been stopped from winning a game of football.
So does this make this an emergency podcast then in that case?
Yeah, I know, it's crisis, company out, sack the board. No, I'm joking. Of course not. But no, to give credit, I think I said to you right before this, going into this, I thought this would actually be our most difficult game of the season just because of that ground, that team, and the troubles we've had with them in the past. Fucking hell, Union Berlin. I mean, look, I can't complain because, fine. It's our first time we dropped points all season in all competitions, and it's like, we're mid-November now in this international break. But you never make it easy, and fair credit to you. Just another outstanding performance at home from those boys. just making it as difficult as can be. They scored early. I was watching the game, of course. They scored early. Ansa scored. I was worried, but then that got called off, and I thought, like, okay, fine. We've had the scare. Now let's just click into gear, get a comfortable win, and keep going here, right? But no, they kept up the pressure. The threat that they posed from set pieces brought about the opening goal. Durkee it was. Speaking of goalkeeper blunders, let's add Manuel Neuer to that list, shall we? I mean, come on, Neuer. You should have saved that.
Yeah.
You should have kept that out, man. Like, come on, let's be real. But anyway, it goes in. I'm 1-0 down. But then we go up the other end shortly after, and it looks like normal services resume when Luis Diaz puts in a contender for potentially goal of the season, or at least goal of the month. That just fantastic, keeping the ball in on the line, spinning around the defender, firing it top corner on a really tight angle. Just, I can't believe Liverpool let him go. I mean, I'm a United fan. I'm glad Liverpool let him go. I'm glad he went to my other club. So, yeah. But yeah, but then Union just didn't relent. They just pushed on, got themselves deservedly in front again in the second half.
Yeah.
Turkey at the double. He scored a brace a couple of weeks ago. I think it might have been the first week we did this podcast when they beat Gladbach at home 3-1. He scored a brace in that. Again, just dangerous from a set pieces, him and the team as a whole. And we did get back into it late on, Kane, the saviour. But yeah, 2-2 it finished, and Bayern were finally stopped from winning a game of football. I mean, I will say Kane did have a goal disallowed in the first half as well. But yeah, overall on the balance of play, Union wholeheartedly deserved to take points from Bayern in that game, and they did just that. What were your thoughts about that?
I've got different thoughts in relation to Union, but look, yeah, they've done what 16 other clubs before them have not been able to do this year. So credit to them, but they've got players that can hurt you, right? But I mean, I feel particularly sorry for whoever they happen to play in the match day coming up, because I just think that team's going to be in for a really difficult time. And as I look at the fixture,
it's Powley people.
Oh dear, oh dear. Okay, and we'll get to their game as we go in a little bit. But yeah, they've got players that can hurt you. Durkee's been a household name for them in recent seasons, and you can't write them off. You can't write them off at home. They're always just going to,
Fortress.
Yeah, yep.
I've really got to remember the name of their ground, but yeah, that Fortress.
Al Sarai. I can't remember the name of it, but Fortress Union. But it's an amazing atmosphere. I do tend to watch, some of their games just for the pre-match atmosphere, and it's pretty electric. But yeah, look, credit to them. Bayern, did all they could. Could Neuer have done a little bit more to prevent them taking a point off of Bayern? We don't know, but
I mean, it was bound to happen eventually that we weren't going to win a game. Obviously, no one's going to win all games all season.
Just not this close to the start of the season, but
exactly. But yeah, I mean, just another hats off performance, managerial wise, tactically wise, to Steffen Baumgart, who is a really good coach, especially for setting up a team to defend. I mean, he's a coach I'd look at in terms of, like, I was watching, the physical nature of the Premier League and stuff like that. He's the sort of coach I'd look at in kind of sense, like, he'd do a good job with a team in the Premier League who are trying to, maybe tread water and keep themselves relatively safe potentially, because he just knows how to set up a team defensively. And even though their away form isn't as good as what their home form is, at home they are very difficult to beat, and the results they've had at home just kind of speak for themselves this season. So yeah, congratulations, Union. You are the first team to you are the first team to take points off us this season, and I'm not complaining, because you 100% deserve to do that. That performance was fantastic. See, I'm not a fan who's going to sit here and say, oh, woe is me, Bayern should have won every game. No, when my team don't play well, I'll admit it. And Union were the better team, and I think maybe a point was a fair result overall, but yeah, as I think you're saying, without me rambling, Union deserved the points. So Union fans, your team put in a solid performance and deserve every point that they took from it. So,
I was just going to say who may be the next team to take points off Bayern. Let us know in the comments.
Freiburg this week,
could possibly be. But we'll move on to the next game, and that was Hoffenheim with a really good win against Leipzig, actually, and I was actually quite impressed with this one. I did have a look at this particular contest, and look, Hoffenheim for me have been in a superb run of form, 3 straight wins coming into what was really going to be a good test against derby. 5 through the midfield, I reckon, was a bold choice, but it's been their style in recent weeks, and a front 3 for Leipzig would be the perfect test as well. At both ends. But look, both sides wasted good scoring chances in the opening 10 minutes, but Diamande does what he does and made the most of his. turned his man inside out and beat Oliver Baumann and gave the visitors an early advantage. But Hoffenheim scored after 20 minutes. So counteracting that, so Hajari scrambled home an equaliser at the far post from what I thought was a really smart cross, and it was a great start overall.
Yeah.
What did you think?
I mean, yeah, it was just another impressive win from Hoffenheim, and a really impressive one for this form, that the run that they've been on. I think we touched on it in the previous review we did. Hoffenheim fans must love us, because I'm pretty sure ever since we started this podcast, these weekly reviews, Hoffenheim have yet to drop a single point in the Bundesliga, if I'm correct, and they just continue their winning run. I think they've, other than Bayern, I mean now more than Bayern, because now they've won when Bayern haven't won. So, yeah, Hoffenheim fans, jump in the comments, please, and let us know how much you are starting to idolise us to, because we are clearly right now a good luck charm for your football team. Yeah, they move up to 6th, and with an absolutely fantastic performance against a team above them in the table, who've been in fantastic form themselves in recent weeks.
Yeah, it's been pretty remarkable. I've been really impressed with them.
Yeah.
Tim Lemperle was right in the action as well. Nice finish.
I rate him. He's been really good this season. We'll start the Leipzig goal. You've been talking highly about this Diamande guy. A young player coming through this season. You think he's been really impressive for them, as do I. He scored again for them. But yeah, the Hoffenheim attack, Kramaric, Lemperle, Prommel, the list goes on of these players who've just been outstanding in the last month and a half or so of the season, and they've just done it again.
Yeah, a guy that I talked about I was just going to say he had a really great run chalked offside, which was disappointing because it would have been a terrific finish. And Romelu for Leipzig had the same actually. So we mentioned it was a busy weekend for VAR. The linesmen were kept busy with quite a number of offside calls from great runs that were chalked off as well. But yeah, we talked about Hoffenheim up to 6 now and an impressive turnaround, and Leipzig I guess would have been disappointed to not get anything from that result.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say at the same time, Hoffenheim deserved the win, which I think
absolutely, yeah.
And this run of form they're in is taking them up into the Champions League conversation week by week, and if they can get to that winter break inside the top 4, imagine the confidence boost it gives them going forward into the second half of the season.
Knowing that they're clear of those other teams that are scrambling to
especially considering
stay
the
up.
start they had this season, the turnaround that they've had since the poor start that they had, or the slow start they had.
Yeah.
Just remarkable, and hopefully it continues, because they're becoming one of my other favourite, becoming one of my favourite teams to watch outside of Bayern, obviously.
Yeah, I do keep an eye on them. I mean, they did beat my team St. Pauli a few weeks ago. I think that was probably the start of their run, but I do actually enjoy, when we do the reviews of highlights every weekend, I do certainly keep a closer eye on them than other sides. Absolutely.
So moving on, St. Pauli's noisy neighbours, Hamburg, got themselves a creditable draw against the Dortmund side, who were trying to win another game 1-0. But this is what happens when you try and win games 1-0. You jammy twat. For the record, the only reason I obviously hate them because I'm a Bayern fan and Der Klassiker and blah blah blah, but the other reason I hate Dortmund is because a couple of seasons ago, I know this looks stupid now, but there's a couple of seasons ago they were dicking us around with the Sancho transfers in United, when I say us, and making us pay extra and holding it off, and not them, but that dickhead chairman or CEO there, was director of football, whatever the fuck job he has there. Was basically dicking us around with it, and I have not liked Dortmund ever since. I didn't like them before anyway because of Bayern, but yeah, also, but not as much because they used to provide us so many good players in the past. But yeah, but this is what happens when you try and keep winning games 1-0. It doesn't always work. They were heading down that route again. They were 1-0 up, looking comfortable, and then Hamburg managed to just get something together. Ransford Königsdörfer. Shit. Welcome to the goal scoring charts this season. Finally, in the
couldn't have left it any later. Into second to last minute of stoppage time. Yeah,
it's only taken you till the 10th game in the league this season, but you're finally off the mark for a centre forward.
Yeah, and I did mention just in my notes that that goal from Königsdörfer did lift the roof off the Volkspark Stadion, even though it doesn't have one. The atmosphere to score in the second to last minute, when it looked like Dortmund had done enough to claim all 3 points, was really, really good for Hamburg. Just some little things I sort of saw. Julian Rice had a volley blocked. It was put back in by Gross, and the inability to clear Vankani Chukwuemeka.
Chukwuemeka.
That's the one. I'll get his pronunciation right by the end of the season, I promise. But look, really, really credit to Hamburg to keep fighting to get a point. And one little stat that I actually mentioned before we came on air, both Hamburg sides have drawn Dortmund at home this season, so it probably says more about Hamburg than it does the other Hamburg side. But at the moment, contrasting fortunes. But I think a draw was probably a fair result in the end.
Yeah, I'd say so. Hamburg, I was a little disappointed with their performance against Köln in the previous week. I thought they had a much better performance this week and got a goal and got the point to show for it. Dortmund, again, as I've said before, they're doing what they've been pretty good at doing in recent weeks. They just couldn't get it over the line this week, so maybe it's just an indication to them going forward that they do need to sometimes, try and see out games a little more efficiently than they are at the moment. As good as they are defensively and have been this season, Gregor Kobal's one of the few keepers in the league this season who's not really made any blunders of note, so that's something to be said.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. But yeah, I think creditable draw for Hamburg. Not the most disappointing result overall, I guess, for Dortmund. They're still well and truly inside the top four at the moment. So yeah, they'll just take that and move on, I suppose. Which we will now do to the Gladbach home game, and Gladbach are starting to find their feet. It only took a win against St. Pauli to do that. They followed that 4-0 thumping of your boys up with a 3-1 win against the other promoted side in Köln.
Yeah, and they're still in the Pokal as well against a team that I won't mention, but it's St. Pauli. But yeah, look, this is another side that's similar to Hoffenheim. They've really grabbed their opportunity and run with it. And Köln have been okay. They've not been too bad this year, but they just got outplayed by Gladbach in this one. It's the first Rhine derby in a couple of seasons, with Köln being in Zweite Bundesliga last season. But both sides were in good form. And look, at Köln side at the moment, who really don't want to be dragged into that relegation conversation as time goes on. But look, the first half wasn't all that exciting. Gladbach were actually eventually awarded a penalty with the help of VAR. We did say they've been busy on the stroke of half-time, but it was Marvin Schwab who actually stood up really well. He made a really good low right-hand save from Haris Tabakovic, who's been busy scoring goals of late.
For his country as well.
Indeed, yeah. But short-lived, really, that was. Another set-piece allowed Gladbach in via Sander, who made the Köln defence pay dearly for not clearing convincingly. And we talk about goalkeeper errors and things like that in this competition, but it's defensive errors and not clearing balls that you should that are going to cost you as well. And that was the no better example than that particular first piece. But VAR were kept busy. Another Gladbach spot kick, and I think we were talking before we came on air. How many penalties were awarded through VAR over the week, and there was quite a few.
Yeah, it's been a weekend for VAR, and especially in this game. I think there was 3 penalty goals in total in this game. Schwaber saved the first, couldn't quite get on the second, and then obviously Luca Waldschmidt pulled one back of his own for Köln late on for the consolation. But yeah, Gladbach have found their feet, it seems. I think I mentioned it when we played them a couple of weeks back, when I said even though they went down 3-0 to us when they were 10 men down, the performance they put in, the solidity they were playing with, made me think that maybe they were getting close to finally breaking that duck. And then they did against you, and they've just done the best thing you can do as a team who's desperate for a win, to back up when you get that win and get a second win. Because then all of a sudden now they've lifted up to 12th, I believe it is, in the table now.
Yep.
All of a sudden, that relegation worry that they had heading into the winter break, which I know we've mentioned a lot, but it is worth noting because we are now close to it.
Yep.
Within a month or so away from it now. The change in confidence that can bring now that they've done back-to-back wins, they've got themselves 6 points and they've gone up the table, clear of the drop zone by a few points now. Just completely changes the entire complexion on their season at that point, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Now they start to look at games in the form, and they're starting to pick up form, and they go, oh, maybe we can get a win or a point here, maybe. And then all of a sudden, if it continues like that, they get to the winter break, and then nothing to worry about, and they can relax a little more second half of the season, knowing that they're probably no longer going to go down. So that's all it takes.
Yeah.
It's the early stage of the season, because the gaps are usually smaller than they are when it's like March, April
Yeah,
time,
and that's before bringing in new players in the January window as well. Yeah. I mean, who can hopefully add to them. But look, even though they beat my side a couple of weeks ago,
I've been impressed with Tabakovic in recent weeks. I mean, he's come through. I mean,
Yep.
shows that they haven't now started not even to Tim Kleindienst is back.
Mm-hmm.
You think he'll be fit and ready to go, especially for that second half of the season.
Absolutely.
The change it will have for them going forward. They're in a better position now. Eugen Polanski's got them playing, got them confident again, and hopefully for their sake they just keep picking up points and they don't drag themselves back into the relegation.
Absolutely.
That they have to wait so long to get out of.
Yeah, winning form is good form. I think that's probably the most important thing, and they've got that, and it's up to them now to continue that. But we've got one more game to cover through the Bundesliga weekend, and it's probably one that
I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, I probably wasn't keen going in to talk about it, and I'm probably still not that keen, but we'll go through it. St. Pauli travelled to Freiburg in a game where I just sort of thought, oh, here we go again, another really heavy defeat. What's going on with my club this season? Same old. But it was a 2-1 win to Freiburg, and it had its talking point. Philip Troy, who was a St. Pauli defender last season, moved to Freiburg in the off-season, and the visitors could have used him in their defensive lineup given their record of late, couldn't they? But Freiburg actually appeared to struggle with the high level of pressure defensively early.
Yeah, I thought you started well.
Yeah.
But then I'm always looking at you in games these days going like, but is it going to last?
Well, the answer to that is no, and I'll tell you why. Because Nikola Vasil, who we've also talked about on this podcast for...
Though, on a side note, since this, because we are recording this a little further in advance, obviously, as you know, has qualified for a World Cup playoff spot with his country, Kosovo. So congratulations there to you, Vasil.
Yep, I thought it was Bosnia-Herzegovina, but I'm happy to be corrected. Let us know in the comments, especially with the World Cup coming up next year as well. But yeah, look, it was another really poor error from him. Not quite as bad as the previous ones he's made this season, but look, it was a crowded penalty box, and he tried to sort of punch it away. Didn't clear it well enough, and it was actually a young Nicholas Bestercross, who it's a guy for Freiburg I've been really impressed with. And
got a hell of a beard on him, I'll say that.
The best beard in the Bundesliga, perhaps. But
if you're watching this, Jan Nicholas Bester, comment below.
Another one.
I do it every week.
Another one will be in the World Cup squad talk as well as we go along. But Suzuki lashed onto this one to drive it in for the home side and really set them onto cruise control. I had to put that in there. But look, not long after the restart, it was Bester again, who actually did really well to keep the ball in from the byline. He hit a low cross that found Vasil's legs. Unfortunately, from there it actually fell straight to Eggestein to double the advantage.
Well, it's not the Eggestein.
No, it's his brother. It's his brother. And look, from there, that was 2-0 up, and it was really from here, could St. Pauli actually get anything out of this game, or would it be 3-0 to Freiburg?
Considering you hadn't scored a goal in the league since we began this podcast, yeah.
Correct, but look, from there, the unthinkable actually happened, and I was startled by this and completely
when I was
stunned.
watching the highlights back of this one, I was like, wait, they've scored?
They actually did. Mathieu Pereira-Lage actually won the ball back on the right wing, did really well to win it back. Connor Metcalf, who actually got a start, actually did really well to flick the ball back to Lewis Oppie, who, as you might recall, was in the Bokhal final side for Arminia Bielefeld, I think last season. So credit to him for being able to sort of match it in the top division, but scored the first Pauli goal in weeks in the league. I certainly didn't see it coming. I don't think you saw it coming either.
Yeah, God, no. As I said, prior to that, you guys hadn't scored a goal in the league since we began this podcast.
No,
so, yeah.
But a little moment I actually spotted, and as you know, with World Sport, there's broadcast cameras everywhere, right? So panning to Nikola Vasil actually pumping his fists in joy. If I was him, I would have been looking for a more secluded island personally to do that, because he hasn't had his best moments, and But look, does it sort of mean that they're getting a little bit better? We don't know, but a little caveat for me: Jackson Irvine had an extended return off the bench, and he almost instantly scored one on his own. But Freiburg's first win in 6, but it's 7 losses in a row for the visitors, and they really need to start getting points.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing to talk about right now is that, you played a little better. Yes, you actually scored a goal, but you still lost, and you lost to a team who'd been winless in 6 prior to that, right? And then got their first win in 6, right? So it's like there's two ways of looking at it. It's like, oh, we scored a goal, we played a bit better, maybe we're going to take some confidence in. But then the other side is it wasn't against a team who were in form. That's the other thing to think about. And you saw what happened the previous week when you played another team who were out of form. They absolutely twatted you and got themselves into form. So, it's 2 weeks in a row now that you've helped a team end a winless drought, right? You got Union away.
That's at home.
At home, sorry. You've got Union at home. Yeah, fine. They're away.
Doesn't really mean much either way because they've just shown they're a difficult side to play against, and
then you got us the week after. That's the other thing.
Yeah, and as we said, we've got Gladbach in the cup coming up soon as well, and I think we've got Hoffenheim coming up, so that might be one of the only.
I think we're talking about the winter break a lot, and with this being the last game of the Bundesliga to talk about for this particular round, we'll bring it up again. The winter break is fast approaching, obviously, and for you guys it's big as well because you've lost 7 in a row. This Union game isn't going to be easy. You could potentially try and win it, or you could win it. You could at least get a point out of it, but then we know almost for certainly you're probably going to lose to us. So then you've only got 2 or 3
I've already
games.
Penciled that in, by the way. So
you've only got 2 or 3 games. We honestly, people, we would love to do a live stream watch along of that game, but it's a little difficult with time difference here in Australia to do that live. So unfortunately we can't. But it would be good if we could. But yeah. But no. Anyway, yeah. You need to look for it's like that winter break. 7 in a row. If you're gonna sack the manager, do you do it now, or do you wait till the winter break and then try and go and give the new manager a winter break to find a team and get something together, and then try and go and get some?
I think it's got to be before that. I mean, I think I said to you a couple of weeks ago on this very podcast. I don't want us to be drawn into that relegation scrap.
That's what I'm saying.
If we leave it too late,
until the winter break, and then you sack him if nothing improves, and then you bring the manager in immediately at the beginning of the winter break. And rather than throwing him into the deep end with having the manager game immediately after, you give him a winter break to get something together, and then he gets his first game. In my opinion, would be the better way of doing it. Obviously, your team and your board might have completely differing ideas, but you as a fan, is that your view on the potential best way?
Yeah, look, it could possibly be
to accept that. You might not win between now and the winter break, but if you get someone in then, you could then start picking up results in the second half of the
Depends
season.
on how far back we are.
And the thing is, would you even trust your team to win a playoff if you were at least to get
into
the playoffs by the end of the season?
I would, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely would. And you look at we talked about Heidenheim just before. I'd be more comfortable with us being in that spot, being able to win a playoff if it gets up to that point. But look, I'm hoping it doesn't. But we will have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah. We'll just touch on Freiburg, of course. They're playing us next week. It's weird. This season's had this weird pattern going on. Every time us or Pauli play a team, it's almost the other one who plays that same team the following week. I mean, it's a perfect example. They played Freiburg, we played Union. The next fixture, we play Freiburg, they play Union. And it's happened a few other times this season as well. So it's a little ridiculous, but it just keeps happening like that, and it's pretty funny.
Swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of swings and roundabouts, so we've got the A-League review.
Yeah, so that'll do it for the Bundesliga portion of this. It's just a couple of changes. The bottom of the table's gotten a little tighter. Mainz and Gladbach are both down there on 5 points. You're currently occupying that playoff spot, I believe.
We are
2 points further better than them. And at the top of the table, could you argue the door is open slightly to Leipzig, Dortmund, Leverkusen?
Just a little bit, yeah.
And
just a bit.
The other team who were up there, that's just completely slipped my mind. Apologies to fans of that team.
But what it does show is it's great, great watching every week. I mean, there's usually we've found, 2 or 3 really good games that might not even be in the top sides, but that's the quality of the league. But we'll jump
Stuttgart, sorry,
Stuttgart,
I think we were up in the top 4.
Yeah, but we'll jump into our review of the A-League, and look, it started on a Friday night at Cooper Stadium. It was Adelaide United beating the Wanderers, not really surprisingly for mine because I had to watch this game. It was 2-0.
He's done it a few weeks in a row now. He's finally understanding what it's like watching Alan Stajic football.
Yeah. And the next game after that was actually Perth Glory, which wasn't much better. So, but look, it was Luka Jovanovic, who is a guy that I've been really impressed with, pairing up with Craig Goodwin. It was a standard 4-4-2, but I've been really impressed with this guy. He scored in Auckland, I think, the week before. And And, basically the first half wasn't much to write home about, but Goodwin and Jovanovic teamed up brilliantly after 63 minutes. It was a really smart cross from Craig Goodwin, switching the play to Dylan Preyas. And he fed Jovanovic in the box, and the young guy made no mistake. Trapped the ball really nicely on his right foot and hit it past Lawrence Thomas, who I'm not sure how he's still an A-League player, I have to be honest.
Thank you. Because I think he's completely average as well. And I'm not just saying that because he played for Wanderers and used to play for Victory.
I've seen enough Melbourne City derbies to know that he's no good. So,
yeah.
But really, so that was 1-0. But if that wasn't bad enough for Wanderers, the roles were reversed not minutes later, but Piraeus again running through the slack marking of Wanderers, found Jovanovic again, who put a ball through to Goodwin, who really could have almost walked it in. The defending was so slack. And Adelaide United were well in control at this point. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, just exactly that. Really, it's the Wanderers pattern this season, and it's what you get from Alan Stajic football. It's happening to them. There comes a point where it just no longer becomes tenable. Like, I'm saying this cautiously because we're playing them in 2 weeks' time, and they always turn up against us in a derby, regardless of their form. At the time, it's just a typical trope of a derby, really, isn't it? Form goes out the window and stuff like that. But in regards to this game, Adelaide are good at home this season. There's no denying that. They've been pretty poor on the road so far this season, but at home they've looked a lot stronger. And this was another performance to kind of underline that. I think, they moved up to third, which I think has changed since the other games later in the same week. But they have essentially moved up into the top 6 as a result of this. Look, does it mean they're going to go and barnstorm the league? No, it doesn't. Obviously, they're not the best. There's better teams in the league, but their home form is always crucial. But they're usually good at home, and they're looking strong again at home this season. As for Wanderers, I think they're still winless now this season. 4 games, they're winless, aren't they? Yeah. They're still yet to win this season. They're sinking closer towards the bottom end of the table.
Yeah,
I know it's still early days. We're in the international right now. They could come back renewed and they could start winning games and shoot themselves up the lead, right? But if we're going off what we're reviewing, obviously, as things stand, they're not looking good. The football, it's not. I say it every week. I'm not going to sound like a broken record, but it's not the best football to watch at times. They're not creating enough clear-cut chances. It was likewise in this game. They had a chance early on, that header from Kraev. Not much really else to note other than that in terms of chance creation from them throughout the match.
No.
And as in football, when you I can relate last season at United, you can relate as a South Howley fan. In a football match, when your team's not scoring goals, you're always susceptible to lose just because it only takes one chance for the opposition to get down the other end and score, right?
Absolutely.
And especially when you've got a goalkeeper like Lawrence Thomas, right? There's always that worry that you are going to concede at least once in a game, right? So
yeah. But I mean, we talked about sort of what that means for both sides, and look, the pressure's got to be on Stajic now after another game without a win. But for United, you mentioned, so they're up to third, looking really strong, and they're actually at home to City on Friday night. So I think as a City fan, that's going to be no. On the couch at home, yes.
At home, sorry.
But that I immediately see that as a danger game for us, and with good reason. We don't have a great record over there. I'm not making the trip over, but I know the travelling City fans will be, and in that one little tiny bay at Cooper Stadium, which I have been to before, they're gonna pack that one whole row of seats out. So
I forgot. Well, we'll use this as a chance to go into this quick segment we were talking about. What Football Australia, or whatever group it is that runs the A-League these days, do you understand how to schedule fixtures home and away properly? I know, like most teams, there's no real issue, but we've looked at the fixtures for his team, Melbourne City. They're in the midst of a run of 4 or 5 consecutive away games, and then they're following that up with 7 in a row at home. Like, what is this fixture?
Asian Champions League fixtures in the middle of that too.
That's what I said, we were playing in the Asian Champions League too. Fine, a slightly different version of it, but we were playing in Asia last season, and that wasn't happening to us. As I'm pretty sure it wasn't happening to Mariners as well last season, who were playing in the Asian Champions League proper.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on with your fixturing this season, Football Australia? Do you understand the concept of fixturing football matches correctly?
Yeah, I think
it's not just, let's give them 5 away games in a row and then we'll return it with 7 home games in a row.
Yeah. I remember saying to you the Glory game was our first one, and I think now we don't have a home game until the 20th of December.
Yeah, well, we're talking about like crowds here as well to bring this. The reason it's such a problem. We're in Australia, like people in Football Australia not realise the size of this country and the fact that there's 2 teams in New Zealand on top of that as well, right? It's not exactly like fans can just hop on a train for an hour or less and just go to. I mean, yeah, fine. If it's an intercity game, fine, but you know. Fans from Perth, Adelaide, Wellington, Auckland, when they're playing teams, Brisbane even, when they're playing teams like in Melbourne, like Melbourne City, it's not like they can easily just jump on a train for 20, 30 minutes and get to Amy Park.
No.
But you're talking about trying to improve fan attendances, right? How on earth are you improving fan attendances where you're expecting fans to travel halfway across the damn country multiple weeks in a row because you can't fixture things properly? Get it through your skulls.
Yep.
Whatever's going on with Asian competition, actually put a proper plan in place. Don't just go, but they can't use Amy Park, can't do that. And here's another thing, maybe give Melbourne Victory their own stadium again to further stop this from happening.
As a City fan, I certainly can absolutely concur with
There's
that.
only
But
12 professional football teams in this entire... 10 professional football teams in this entire country because 2 of them are in New Zealand. How is it that 2 in the same city can't even have 2 separate stadiums when you've got 92... Can't even do that on my hands.
Yeah.
92 professional football clubs in England. Each and every one of them have a separate football stadium to play in. But 10 in one country and even 2 in the same city can't even manage that. My God, Football Australia and the A-League as a whole. Fix this mess. You want to fix the league? These are the shit you should be focusing on, not overhyping and over-dramatising games through use of VAR or making derbies more important than any other game in the league by trying to boost the fan attendance for a derby but giving 0 shits about other... This is the type of shit that, as fans who want to see the league grow as best it can and seeing it on a steady decline, pisses us off because it's like... And I bet for match-going fans, because I can't speak from that experience, but match-going fans even more so, must get annoyed about this. When you rock up to Amy Park and you just seem like a half-empty stadium and the away fans are turned up in their 20s as opposed to their hundreds or even thousands, right?
Yeah, well, that's something I certainly noticed about the derby, which we'll talk about shortly.
My rant's over, by the way.
But look, it's gonna be a really busy Christmas New Year period for City, and I'm in town, so I'll be able to capture it. But speaking of shit, there was another game on that Friday night, which I also had the pleasure of covering. And look, first of all, I'll just mention, if you're looking for game with goals in the first half on a late Friday night over on the East Coast, this wasn't it. It was
wasn't the Leverkusen 5-0 half-time score.
No, it was the Mariners taking this one out 1-0 against Glory. And look, I wasn't too impressed with this one, but still Maru, a mainstay in the league, had his 200th game for the Mariners. Brian Kaltak also coming across against his old side at Glory now. But look, I'll try and cover this one as quickly as I can. The deadlock was broken in the 56th minute. It was Nicholas Duarte. It was actually a contender for goal of the month. Bailey, Don Brantman, easily both Shamoon and Matt Sutton with a ripping left foot rocket. If you haven't seen it, guys, go and check it out. The game had finally come to life, and I'm not sorry for that pun either, Chester. Sorry. I've had that in the back pocket for about a week. So
crap, because the names are wrong anyway. It's Brantman, not Bradman.
Mm-hmm. I had the spelling correct, but
Well, you could say Julian Brantman. That would make more sense.
Oh well, it's on the record now. But yeah, look, Cohen Yai had some good chances for Glory. Lockie Wales battled hard for Perth, but really they've conceded 9 goals in the opening month, and it's just not good enough. But I'll say this again, credit to the unwavering Glory fans who turned out yet again and brought the noise. The squad's got serious issues, and whoever the new manager is, will it be Paddy Kisnorbo? We'll need to address that urgently, really.
Wherever he is, he might only do a month and then go elsewhere, like he did to Victory last season. No, but yeah, it was literally a nothing game. It was. I remember watching the highlights. There wasn't much to see apart from the goal. Not too many chances from a Perth, perspective. Obviously, that injury to Kaczarski is obviously going to be a big blow for them. I'm not 100% sure when he's going to be back. Maybe with the obviously international break that we're in now. maybe that's going to help his recovery phase. He might be back this week for all we know. But as things stand, yeah, it's not looking like it's going to be another promising season for Perth Glory, if we're being honest. It's been, nothing really too impressive, apart from maybe the way they started with that 2-2 against Wellington in their first game of the season. Other than that, they went down limply to Mariners, they went down limply to Victory, I can't remember. Oh, and they went down limply to you. I mean, yeah, they haven't scored a goal in the last 3 weeks either. That's the other alarming thing, of course. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, for Perth, again, there's really not much to say. Good win for Mariners to get back to winning ways, their first since the opening game of the season. But I think, yeah, just overall, it's not particularly looking amazing for Glory right now.
Not at all. No.
Yeah. But we'll move on from that because there's just nothing really to say about that game. To the first game I watched this weekend, which was the proper derby for Wellington, the New Zealand derby or whatever they're calling it, at the old Cake Tin against Auckland. And Wellington lost 2-1. I'll stop doing a Kiwi accent.
Please do.
Funny thing about this was, so I watched both games on the Saturday. Obviously, I'd moved into an Airbnb briefly with my partner as she was recovering from hospital. She's doing a lot better now. She's actually at work for the first time. Gone off to work for the first time since then. So good on her for that. Also, because I've just forgotten to again, and I think I forgot to last. If you're this far into the video and you're liking what you see and you're loving and enjoying this content, don't forget to like and subscribe and give us a follow on Instagram. People, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But anyway, as I was saying, I was setting up at the Airbnb and we're having a bit of an issue getting the internet going with it. And when I finally got it sorted, I turned on. I was only like 5 or so minutes ago. I thought, I haven't missed much. As I turned on, Cosgrove had literally just opened the scoring for Auckland. And more about early goals in derbies for the same game. I'll get onto the next one in a bit. But yeah. So early goal for Auckland. Wellington pull it back. Fantastic finish from Eze. You've seen it, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. I did.
Fantastic finish from Eze. But then, once again, Auckland proving too strong, getting themselves in front, and then, it's never easy to score 1 against Auckland, let alone 2. And they've won their 4th derby in 4 derbies since coming into the competition, and once again, deservedly so.
Yeah.
They've got so many players who are just looking impressive as they ever are this season. Jesse Randall, once again, had an absolutely outstanding performance. Obviously got a goal to cap it off, a very good finish. Sakai didn't play. I'm not sure if he was injured or not, but again, it didn't really matter. De Vries on one wing, I think it was Cal and Elliott, if I'm not mistaken, who played on the other wing back in Sakai's place.
Yep.
Just an equally decent performance from him, and they're just that Stevie Corica kind of, defensive third, how tight they are, compact they are, how difficult they are to break down, the physicality that he gets out of his team. The FC Union Berlin of the A-League, you could even call it, but they win more games overall. No offence, Union Berlin. Yeah. You did just take points off my lot, so yeah.
Yeah, and then look, they've got a couple of games, couple of repeat fixtures as the season goes on. They're going to be quality games, I think, for sure.
I'll say, Wellington have lost the game, and just one thing that's maybe something them to take. Something that's becoming a bit of a trend this season, this new system that they're trying to play this season, the higher line, it got caught out again for that opening goal early on. It's not the first time it's happened this season where they've been caught out for an early goal. So, something they'll be looking to hopefully try and avoid, especially when they play teams like Melbourne City and stuff like that. We're really going to be able to exploit those weaknesses. But, yeah. Yeah,
and speaking of City...
Oh, you're not going to talk about the Auckland game at all?
Sorry, Auckland fan. The City game's the next one we'll cover. We'll look. I thought Auckland, they were impressive, and they're just sort of doing what they tended to do last season. Corica's really showing his tactical class and strength, setting up a team to defend deep and certainly in the box. But Wellington, struggled again to create clear chances. Jesse Randall I was really impressed with as well for Wellington. Seems to be a really good player for them. And
one thing I will notice, because I literally just checked my notes and completely forgot about this because I've seen so much football since then. The red cards were more impressive with the fact that they literally managed to hold on to 2-1 down to not only 10 but 9 men. I thought the first red card was, a little 50-50, Dan Hall, last man, was it particularly all his fault? I mean, a little clumsy. I think when I first watched it, I was on the thing like, oh, that's a bit harsh. But then when I watched the replay a few times, I was like, okay, that's fair enough. That you could argue that's pretty much still a red card, even though it looks a bit harsh. The second one though from Logan Rogerson was an absolute brain fake. He's not doing himself any chances, like in terms of getting back in the team, because it's Jesse Randall who's had such a good start to the season and taken his place on that wing. And he comes off the bench and within 5-10 minutes completely has a head loss and goes for a completely pointless, studs up challenge to get himself dismissed. Doesn't help his chances of getting back into the team anytime soon. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't really make a difference on proceedings because, as Stevie Corica sides do, they defend the box so well in tight, compact areas, and they held on for the 2-1 as well. Like, I've seen a few times him hold out for us to win or draw games when he was our manager when we were numerically disadvantaged. So yeah. Auckland looked like the team to beat again, as I think I said last week, and
very impressive.
A team who are probably going to be up there with them, you'd imagine, this season.
That's certainly the hope for me.
I sat down for the Melbourne derby, which you weren't at because you make a point as a Melbourne City fan to never pay money to go watch a game where Victory are the home side.
Indeed, I was over at the over across the road at the at John Cain Arena watching the Phoenix get their backsides handed to them by crosstown rivals Melbourne United. So it was a double derby and. Look, I'll just make one little point here about the we've talked about the fixturing and all that sort of stuff. Melbourne public transport and Yarra trams in particular. If you're going to have two games on at different venues and a concert on
next to each other,
and a concert on at Rod Laver Arena, 100 metres up the road. In fact, probably next door. Please put extra trams on so I can get out of the precinct and having packed trams. But there was a game of football on. Aside from that as well, it was the derby.
It was a game, so we are going to talk about that as is the nature of our channel, people. So, as I was saying about the derby, I tuned in 5 minutes or so into the Auckland-Wellington game and just missed a goal really early on after like the first minute in that game. What were the chances on the same night in another derby that there would be another goal inside the first 2 minutes? Well, that happened. Melbourne City took a very early lead for a star who's been a young player who's been rising not a comet. Comets don't rise. Rising like yeast. Very weird analogy, but yeast does rise.
Like a nice sourdough. Yeah.
Yeah, rising like a good old nice sourdough. Yeah. This season, young Max Caputo gave him the lead. I think it was at 4 in the league now this season, and I didn't even get one for midweek prior to that as well in the Champions League.
He scored the winner in the Champions League. Yeah, very impressive. This guy. Chester, I had sort of concerns last season about how much impact the young kids would have, and they've proven me wrong so far this year.
J-Mac's a fading memory now, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he has got a lounge named after him, which I won't discuss because it's probably not part of the podcast anyway. But yeah, Caputo did really well, and it just sums up Victory being too easily broken down in defence, really.
I mean, the balance of the game with City, you guys played like this a lot last season. It looks like you're going to continue this way, which is clearly effective and working, right? You've only conceded 1 goal this season. We'll talk about that. Patrick Beach has just stepped up to another level this season. He's playing for Australia now, of course, as well.
Yep.
Like, he's only conceded 1 goal this season, another outstanding performance in goal in the derby. You guys are difficult to break down. You don't like to play with the ball a lot. I notice you do like to try and hit on the counter and try and soak up pressure a lot in this system, but it works.
Yep.
Victory had a lot more of the ball, a lot more chances, but the shot selection in the final third was absolutely horrendous. And the frustration on Juan Mata as he got a start in this game, and the amount of times he was trying to create something or try and get on the end of something, and the players just clearly weren't on the same wavelength of him. And then he himself missed a chance late on, which you could tell he was visibly frustrated at when he can't kick the post straight after.
Yeah.
But yeah, just a 2-0 win, a comfortable win for you guys, even though Victory had a lot of the ball, a comfortable win in the fact that they really weren't doing an awful too lot with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got them this weekend coming up in our Big Blue against them. But yeah, a good old derby win for you, as comfortable as ever. Not really much to write about it because it wasn't a particularly amazing game of football. You kind of got the job done relatively early and just kind of saw it out from there. Yeah,
look, it was really impressive for me. I mean, especially with 7 players being out through injury. But, I mean, a sour note on that is Nathaniel Atkinson was subbed off in the first half with injury, and hopefully he's good to go for the weekend because he's going to be a really important player sort of through that middle sort of defensive section of the pitch. But, yeah, Beach was top class again and look, deserved his call up to the Socceroos and already starting to look like the keeper of the season, and just really impressive, as we said. But the next game was your mob, Chester. So Sydney FC
You're not going to talk much about your derby.
Well, I think we've pretty much said all we need to say, really.
Not much about it.
No, I look forward to the Christmas derby that I'll be in attendance at.
Yeah.
So hopefully be able to provide a more, more even sort of spread of commentary for that one.
Yeah, we'll move on to my lot. The first of the 2 Sunday games, we took on MacArthur at home, and we've headed into the international break off the back of 3 consecutive wins. And my entire tone of that pretty average performance when we lost to Adelaide in our first game of the season is really starting to change, because every week it's been Mariners. Oh, fine, we've only played Mariners, Newcastle, and now MacArthur. MacArthur's probably the best of those 3 we played, and we got a proper test in the next 2 weeks with the Big Blue and then the Sydney derby afterwards. But, you can't complain when you get 3 straight wins, 3 deserved straight wins, and 3 straight wins where you're looking impressive. And the problems that we had last season are not looking like they're there this season, which is even more. We're still managing to score goals. Maybe we're not as good in the final third with the players we have, but we still have the ability to score goals, which is important. But the defensive solidity that we have now this season, Tisserand, excellent. That Tisserand-Alex Grant partnership barely gave MacArthur a chance. Harrison Sawyer, who's had a relatively decent start to the season, I think from a physical point of view, was really kept quiet through most of the game. Caceres and Bratton obviously both playing now against their former club. Again, both of them really ineffective for the most part of the game. I think Caceres had a wild shot in the first half relatively early on, but there's not much else apart from that. And, we managed to finally get, even though we were getting, not really making the most of our chance at the other end, we managed to, second half, corner comes in, great header from Tisserand, and then we just finish it from Joe Lolly later on, as we're good at just finishing off games this season at the moment. Pat Wood, the super sub, 2 goals and assists in 3 weeks in a row off the bench.
Yeah.
So, good on you, Pat Wood. I'll never doubt you. We'll keep you your whole career.
Pardon the pun, why would you?
Yeah. I just think a solid win with 3 straight wins. We're heading into 2 big games. As I said, Big Blue followed by a derby. It's a good position to be headed into, up in the top 2, I think, now we are in the table. So top 3 or top 2, I can't quite remember.
I think you're just above us from memory.
3, no, because we lost to Adelaide. You drew to Wanderers in the first game of the season, so you got 1 point more.
Right.
2 points more, sorry. 1 point more, sorry, can't add. I think we're up to 3rd right now. That's what I was saying earlier about Adelaide being lower than 3rd, because I'm pretty sure we've overtaken them.
Yeah.
So, 3 straight wins on the bounce. Great, another clean sheet. That's 2 clean sheets in 4 games this season. We're doing a lot better than that than we were last season when we were struggling to keep clean sheets. Just all around impressive performance. I mean, you watched this game with me, obviously, at the Airbnb. That was when we recorded our last review.
Yeah.
What did you make of it?
Look, I thought clinical from Sydney. I mean, it took them a little while to get going. The first half was obviously scoreless, but Campazano, Toure, and Lolly were relatively quiet, which is surprising. But a guy that I want to point out is for MacArthur was Harrison Sawyer. Had a really good game last time out. Looked quite isolated, led in the MacArthur line, and was kept out of the game well by that dynamic duo of Grant and Tisserand, as you said. Pat Wood coming on to score. His star shining really brightly, and I guess for me, Sydney stay top 4, but MacArthur are really the ones that have more to worry about. They've won just one of their last 4 games, and it's a concern.
Yeah, it's a bit of a concern for them. It's true. I will also point out the midfield for Sydney is really impressing me right now. O'Connell's had another solid game. Reece Hughley's really starting to come into his own in that middle of the park, and then Kispe. I just think we've signed smartly in the summer. And, right now we're in a good run of form, and hopefully we can continue it throughout the season and, challenge for the league. Because I'm not going to say it's out of the question, to be honest.
Yep.
The A-League, it changes every year, so it's not, But, we'll move on now to the final game of the week and the final game of this review. And I was quite surprised at this, to be honest. Brisbane Roar absolutely pumped Jets 3-0.
Yeah,
and looked relatively comfortable. We both watched it, of course. Jets have had 2 shocking results after a fantastic result against Victory a few weeks back. They followed it up with a heavy defeat to us, and then more shockingly, a heavy defeat to a Brisbane Roar side who often struggle to score goals.
Yeah.
I don't know what went on there, but Brisbane are looking much more solid under Michael
Valcanis. I was just going to say, they certainly are. They've got a bit of a boost, and they drew with City a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was, credit to them for doing that at home. But they've
had 3 clean sheets in 4 games this season.
Yeah. And this game was taken to the Sunshine Coast, and they drew a pretty big crowd. And look, Sam Klein was impressive, but it was Lucas Harrington who popped up at the near post to head the Roar in front, and really deservedly, I thought. As we saw this game together, and Klein almost made it 2-0, but Will Dobson had a chance for Jets to sneak home past the defence. He broke through really well, but Bazanis wasn't having any of it, so I think he's been a really good addition to their defence. Someone who's had A-League experience and overseas experience has slotted in really nicely for them, but Jay O'Shea on 76 minutes doubled their lead, and from there it was really just Brisbane forging ahead, really.
It was. This is what I was saying. Like, Jets have these young talent, these young players who look good in attacking sense, but it kind of shows the inexperience that you can go from beating Victory 5-2 to losing 4-1 against Sydney, then 3-0 against Brisbane.
Mm-hmm.
And to go with the 3-2 that they lost against Mariners as well on the opening day, 3 defeats in 1 win in 4 games.
Yeah.
But the more concerning factor is the amount of goals they've conceded already this season. 12 goals in those 4 games have they conceded. And that's the really alarming thing for them. That is by far and away right now the worst defensive record in the league this season. And they just look way too easy to score against. But like the second half against us was poor, second half against Brisbane poor, like this second half probably it's
falling away a little bit,
the inexperience can hurt you a bit, really, as a football team. Like, they may be great going forward, and on their day they may blow teams away like they did against Victory, but then it's not always going to happen. So,
and look, Quinn McNichol bobbed up for the third, and he's had a really good start to the year, and as I said, credit to Brisbane, but the Jets have got some work to do. That's two that they've been scored heavily against, and they've dropped now. So, we've got a weekend of fixtures coming up. So will they bounce back? That's the question. But look, overall, I thought the weekend of action was great for some teams, and for not so great for others. Perth and Wanderers and Jets. So we'll wait and see with the next round what that brings. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so that will do it for our review this week. I hope you've enjoyed and got this far. Just past the hour and 10 minute mark, a little longer, but we're getting it a little more under control at least. But yeah, once again, if you don't forget to like, subscribe, give us a follow, all that jazz. We've got a big week coming. Obviously, in 2 days' time, we're back with another tea break episode. This is the big one you've all been waiting for, you cricket fanatics. The Ashes review is coming this Thursday as part of our tea break thing, because the first test kicks off on Friday, which means this Saturday will be the official first watch along on this channel, as we watch along the entire of the day 2 of the Perth test. On this channel, YouTube Live, we're going to do it. We don't have a Twitch account yet or anything like that. It's for gamers anyway, usually, isn't it? But yeah, we will be doing it on YouTube Live. We'll put the links out on Instagram when we get up live for anyone who wants to join in. Remember, I think I've been through this before, but I'll say it again, and I'll probably go over it again on Thursday when we wrap up. But our plan is basically we're going to do the first 2 hours of the first session live. We're going to then switch the stream off, have the lunch break, because there's 40 minutes basically, so we need to eat, recover,
our own tea break. Yeah,
and then we're just going to basically push through from the second section all the way through to the end of the day, so it's going to be a much bigger stream for the second session. So if you join us at the beginning and you want to watch the whole day, don't worry when we turn the stream off at the lunch break.
We are coming back. Yeah.
We will be back when the play resumes at the beginning of the second session. Or if you're joining later on in the day in the second or third session, that'll just be one long I'm not really in the frame here. One long continuous.
I'm sure we can do a recap within 15 minutes, can't we? Yeah.
So it will be a full watch along of Test cricket. I can't believe the first video we want content we want to put out to you live is going to be that, guys. But that's what we want to do. Just see how it goes, because we will be planning to try and do some Big Bash games live streams as well, potentially when we can.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, as well, which will be a lot easier to live stream because you can just do the game from start to finish.
Absolutely.
Rather than have the break and stuff like that. But
looking forward to it.
But yeah, it should be a good test for England's sake, hopefully. Big news before we go too much into it, because it's the whole point of Thursday's episode. But those of you who don't know, Cummins and Hazelwood have both been ruled out for Australia, so we'll probably know more on Thursday, the direction Australia are probably going to take. We'll make some quick predictions now if you want, though. My prediction is I think without the Hazelwood injury, I think things have changed. Because with Cummins out, I think we're both in agreement you're going to go with Boland, right? That was kind of the obvious one.
Yeah.
Scott Boland was coming in. Armandji's still going to come in.
Yeah.
I think Sean Abbott's going to come in instead of Brendan Doggett as the other replacement.
I think,
just because I think they probably need a little more batting depth there. Because if Cummins is gone, they've lost that. And then... So,
But
I
it,
mean,
yeah,
if they go with Doggett, then that's just Cricket Australia for you. But my
Yeah.
imagination or my prediction would be it's going to be Abbott and Boland who come in for
Mm-hmm.
Hazelwood and Cummins, which doesn't make it super easy for us, of course. But
yeah,
we should still be looking at it, going like, look, they're not playing. Those two aren't playing. Here's a chance for us to get at them and win and go 1-0 up. Because that day night at the Gab is going to be a real test. Mitchell Stark and the pink ball. I don't want to go on too long.
No, but we've got a whole review.
Thursday's football,
I was going to say we've got a whole review on Thursday to cover that. But but really looking forward to it. And look, we hope as many of you tune in on Saturday as you can. We're really looking forward to covering that as well. It's going to be a great series.
Yeah, it should be. Hopefully, for England's sake, 5-0 incoming for England.
We'll see.
Maybe. But yeah, anyway, that just about wraps up for this week's Bundesliga and A-League review of last week's games. But don't worry, we've got football coming back because we're done with the international break after tomorrow. So we've got football coming back, Bundesliga and A-League and all that, this coming weekend. So next Monday when we do the video, that will be properly back on track like it was normal. Again, apologies for these last few weeks, but thanks for being patient with us, guys. My partner's properly on the recovery train now. She's just got her outpatient thing next week, and then other than that, should be all good. So, yeah, fingers crossed for that. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Yeah, we'll be back on Thursday with that big old Ashes review for you. So look forward to that. But yeah, in the meantime, peace out. Take care.
Take care.
See you guys. Bye.